I'm here with Reinforce at an interesting time, seemingly for talent in the Overwatch League. I guess, let me cynically ask, considering the entire news that's currently going on, at this stage, like, are you going to be in next year? Are we going to see you on the desk?
You really did a number scheduling this interview today. I mean, I don't know when it's gonna come out, but I appreciate the question because it probably deserves, from your perspective, it deserves to be asked. I can't really give a comment on it, to be honest with you. I've been reached out to. There's some promising talks, but we'll see. We'll have to see.
Right. Now, of course, as a question of career security, and I think a lot of talent have recently talked about it, about the possibility of branching out into other games or into other, professions, not necessarily, but like doing other stuff in the scene, right? Have you thought about like getting into other games or maybe like developing your career into other parts of it? Like, is there any like idea in your mind what you want to do in the next couple of years of your career?
It's interesting, right? Because when I started in esports, I actually, Overwatch wasn't even out yet. So for those who don't know, I started working in like production, and I did like Twitch moderating and all kinds of that stuff for the Good Studio, which used to do like a bunch of Dota 2 content. I did some StarCraft 2 stuff. That's where Semler came from originally. Like they picked him up, did like Broadening Champions as well. Too Good, who was a former Quake Pro turned Quake commentator, turned like team manager for Fnatic, etc. So, even before Overwatch out, I was doing all kinds of different esports and working with them. My first paid esports gig, I was a social media manager for the Swedish broadcast of a League of Legends Worlds in 2014 or something like that. So like I've really been around and like worked a lot of different gigs. I think I spent most of my time in like Dota 2 before Overwatch came out. And then Overwatch, got announced. I was like, this is my chance to actually become a pro player, which had been a dream I sort of gave up on at that point. So I've really been around all of esports, and I've had a chance to been part of a lot of scenes, not, as talent, not as a pro player, but, being, I did like replays for Dream League, who were doing Dota 2 stuff. I've had the chance of being a talent manager or team manager for Counter-Strike and DreamHack as well. So when they had like DreamHack Stockholm and stuff like that, I would take care of like the CSGO players, make sure they were okay. So I've had an opportunity to be a part of a lot of scenes. But as I sit on top of my gaming chair in 2022, I don't really know if I'd be part of any other scene than Overwatch at this point. When Valorant came out, like was it like 2 years ago now, and they started doing like the key drops. I even had the opportunity to like play around in the alpha and the beta and stuff like that. And I think that was the first time where the thought really struck me of like, could I do other games? Is this something I'd want to do? And somewhere around that time as well, I had the opportunity to be part of like the World of Warcraft broadcast because I did some World of Warcraft classic PvP stuff, which I played a ton of at the time. So I had the opportunity to play around, and I think the answer I reached was just like, I really have to enjoy it. Like I had to be thrilled about that game and just be like naturally curious about that game, how the strategies were laid out, how excited I was about that game. And I just realized that like I truly wasn't obsessed with World of Warcraft Arena to the point where I could like properly sit down, study VODs, like lay out, how it works and then analyze it back. Same thing with Valorant. I was just like, I like the game. It was really fun to play. I still play Valorant some to this day. But like, I couldn't do what Sideshow does and just like grind VOD reviews, after the Overwatch League broadcast to make sure I'm stayed up on, stay up to date on all the news, the transfers, the results, the strategies, everything that comes out of it. Like, I just didn't enjoy it to the point where I was willing to make it part of, what's important to me in my life. So until I find a game that I truly feel that about, I don't think I'll ever actually like full time going to or try to go into another esport. And I actually listened to the interview you did with Saicho as well, where he was like, it was so hard to become an expert at 2 different games at once that like if you do more than 2, you're like lying because it's like that hard.
Yes.
And given like how hard it is to even be like an expert on 2 games, I didn't have the passion to even try, quite frankly, to try to be that for Valorant. So, but that's mostly speaking from like an analyst point of view. Could I experiment and maybe do like some hosting or something for another title? Yeah, and maybe that would be fun. But as of right now, I'm entirely focused on Overwatch, and until I actually enjoy, other esports to the point where I'm like, I really want to get involved with this, until I um, feel that urge, I'm not going to try to force a move into other games because I really believe that you have to enjoy what you're doing, and I just haven't found something that's as fun as Overwatch at this point.
Now, speaking of hosting, theoretically speaking, there is a position opening up. Once again, congratulations to Zoe for probably going on maternity leave sometime in the middle of the season. So theoretically speaking, there's a hosting job opening up there. Is that something that you could see yourself growing into?
I mean, we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, I mean, Zoe loves working, and at the same time, I'm very happy for her if she got to go on maternity leave and spend that time with her family. But I mean, who knows, right? I'm kind of like on standby for whatever role comes our way in the Overwatch League at this point. I feel like, I did some casting last year as well, and even though I only casted like 2-3 maps, like I really enjoy that. I think it was like a Paris map or a series something with Jaws, and I really enjoy that. Like I really enjoyed casting with him. At the same time, like Zoe, when she went to Hawaii and I filled in for hosting duties, like I really enjoy that. I had the hosting book, and I called Avril on stream and like a bunch of ridiculous things like that, and I really thought that was fun. But at the same time, I feel like I'm getting away kind of easy pulling those roles off. So while I did get a lot of compliments like for my hosting and the fact that I did a good job, I think part of that is just like people acknowledge that I'm actually not the host and I am filling in, and it's not really my responsibility to be or expectation to be great at that role in the first place. So I have a ton of respect when it comes for proper hosts, like Pocket, Golden Boy, and Zoe, who they really they really show like what a professional great host should do, and they pull it off in a really miraculous way. I just kind of filled in, and I think I got the benefit of the doubt because I'm just like not a proper host to begin with. So I'm sort of like taking it in my stride, and if they're like, hey Johnny, we need you to fill in for hosting a few days, like I think that'd be fun, and maybe we could I could experiment with it.
Now, if I recall after season 3, I think we talked and you mentioned that you took great pride in your, like, you sort of honing your craft and really like going to town on the VODs and like really getting to know everything. Is there something like you're proud of from the work that you did this year, or that you focused on in trying to improve and becoming better there?
I don't think there's anything specific that really stands out this year that I was particularly proud of. I think it was a product of everyone working really hard to improve the product, and also people coming in like Hexagrams, who wrote a lot of the skits and was the brains of a lot of the sort of like fun shows we did. So you have to give credit to a lot of people like Hex, for example, for contributing to the show in such a way that it was able to positively make Watchpoint better. I think Danny coming in to join the desk was obviously like a big thing, like a massive boon for us on the desk as well, because it really changed the dynamic of the desk, how it felt, the vibe, the atmosphere, everything about it. And then, Costa has, spent 2 years now on the desk being an analyst. And we're really getting the chemistry across with the entire group. So, I think with the desk in 2021, I was really happy that just like we were able to build on what we had established in 2020, and every aspect was way better, because I think people sometimes they underestimate how hard it actually is to be part of a good desk. I feel like most times you actually get a really good desk in esports, it's almost like you fall into it by happenstance. or it is talent that have so much experience with each other that they are genuinely just like friends, that they can banter about it. So an example of that would be World Cup 2018. That's people sometimes reference with me, Golden Boy, Sideshow, and Bren. Like that's so easy for us because like we're just like the best of friends, and we're able to seamlessly pull it off. But the problem is that like even how great that desk was, it still probably lacked some aspects of what a desk should be and how it should be set up, and what gap in the broadcasting that should fill. So I don't really think you can say it was perfect. And if you want to look at like sports examples, I've been watching a lot of basketball recently. I just enjoy NBA, and people always reference like inside the NBA, and it's like Shaq, Barkley, Ernie Smith, like just like an amazing desk product. And I think whether you're in esports or in real sports, everyone just talks about that desk all the time and like how amazing that is. Well, this year they actually added like a Tuesday kind of product where they have like NBA on TNT on Tuesdays. It's a different crew. So I mean, I don't know how much you know basketball, but they brought in like Candace Parker, who's like one of the best female basketball players of all time, incredibly successful. They have Dwayne Wade, who is an absolute all-star Hall of Fame guy, next to Shaq, and they also brought in like a new younger host. And quite frankly, the desk is awful. Like it's really bad. But so despite the fact that all these people have like insane credentials, they're obviously like the best of the best in their craft, they're still not able to quite figure out like how to put together the desk with the chemistry and the looseness and the fun versus the analytical part of it to like really make it a really good product. And I think that just shows you like when you have like the best desk product in the entire sports industry, when they can't really replicate that energy for a second day of broadcasting, I think that really goes to show how hard it is to get a really good desk together. And so with that, I think I'm just really proud of how the desk evolved in 2021, how we were able to add dimensions to the product and consistently just make it better. Like I don't think in any regard it got worse, unless all you want is telestrations, which we had actually. So I was just really happy with the product we put forth in 2021 and overall how we improved upon it.
Now, of course, you're being very humble here because, of course, this netted you a nomination at, I believe, the Esports Awards for Analyst of the Year, didn't it?
I mean, that's, yeah, sure. I mean, I'd argue maybe Costa deserves that more than me, but, fair enough.
I think you deserved it plenty and had a big influence on making this a fun endeavor. Now, I'm interested, like, what kind of feedback you guys generally get, because like there's always like I think everyone with content creator brain always wants to know what kind of thing the audience really wants to hear, right? Like we at this point can say dry analytical content is not what the audience wants, right?
Yeah,
they want some sugar with the medicine. So did you receive any feedback from like maybe like surveys or whatever, or from the data, or just like reading comments or whatever it is, like how much sugar you needed to apply?
I don't Wow, I don't have a diplomatic answer to this one. So I mean, I guess I'll have to make someone mad. But I think everyone has varying degrees of trust, might be the wrong word, in like the community to actually give their take and their opinions, etc. Like I've met a lot of very reasonable and really good esports people who are just like, I never browse Reddit, I never browse Twitter, like it's completely useless. Right. It's annoying feedback. And on the opposite, I've met some people who just like, no matter what you tell them, they won't stop themselves from digging through the trenches of like the most downvoted comments in the most mean-spirited threads. And I'm just like, how are you, like, why are you like browsing these comments? Like, how do you not see for yourself that this is what you should ignore? Like, this is just not beneficial in any kind of way. So I've met people on both sides of the spectrum in that regard. I think I fall somewhere in between. I don't think 99% of Reddit comments or tweets, etc. I don't think they're good for telling you what to do and like what something needs. but I think they're sometimes good in saying what you don't need, what isn't good. And obviously sometimes they're just like flat out wrong. Like they'll be like, I hate this part of the product, and then you're just like, well, obviously, like if you in our shoes, it's something that's really beneficial. I'll see if I can come up with an example to this. I actually can't, but
maybe explaining like easier concepts. Is that something that generally?
Yeah, sure. Like someone who's just like, why are you talking about how sound barrier works? Whereas if you're part of a broadcast talent team and we're broadcasting the grand finals on ESPN like they did like the 2018 season, just like the vast majority audience actually don't know how Lucio sound barrier works. So you have to scale it back and just like actually do that explanation and just shun that feedback that is not necessary to the show. But I think there's other parts of feedback that's like, I won't take it at face value and I won't make it like a big part of my day. But if someone just like, hey, this part of the show is kind of cringe, or like Johnny's doing too much of this, and it's starting to annoy me, I think that sometimes it's worth at least to like take a step back and just like, do they have a point here? Like, is this something that they're actually correct in? And I think for the 2020 season, I think I spoke to you guys about this on Tactical Crouch at some point. Just like the 2020 season, when I came out there and we had a new desk with me, Zoe and Costa, and we hadn't worked that much together, I was just like, well, I'm afraid this desk is going to be very boring unless someone just like, comes in with a crowbar and just like, just like it's an absolute maniac and just like throws things for a loop. So I did way too much of that, where I was just like, I was making too much fun of Costa. I was, interrupting people all the time, not letting people get their points across. And that was because I thought that would be like what was best for the show. And because I thought I recognized what it needed versus, me just sitting back like I did in my early days and just like being the quiet Swede who like sometimes provide an analysis. So, but I got the feedback, from a lot of people, on social media, in my Discords, whatever, who just like, hey, I think you're interrupting too much, or hey, I think you're trying to be funny, but you're actually not. And I that gave me a bit of a epiphany that just like, hey, maybe I should scale it back. So I think when it comes to audience impact, I think we obviously consider ourselves a bit experts on our crafts, but it's always good, whoever you are in whatever role and however good you are at your job, it's always good to get exterior feedback. So I don't try to completely ignore it. I just, over time, I think I believe I've learned what feedback to evaluate and how to evaluate it to make things better in the end.
Right. Now, a different type of feedback that's much more immediate, but also, I guess, a representative amount would be like being in front of a live audience. I mean, that was possible in the past. Like, I'm thinking of BlizzCons, World Cup stuff. I guess the odd homestand that we had in the past. Do you think like desk work benefits from being in front of a live audience?
As to make the desk like make it easier to be on the desk, or like make the desk more attractive to viewers and have more people
help with the energy on the desk and that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the energy that you mentioned is obviously like a big part of it. Some of the desks, my favorite desks that I've worked would be actually one of my favorites, where we were doing the like World Cup red zone for the group stages, and we were like in front of a stage. So we had a desk, but instead of having like the audience behind us, where it's a great camera shot, the audience is behind us, and the viewers, they can see everything going on, we actually had like the audience in front of us. So while we were doing our job, while we were doing the desk and like breaking down the matches, etc., we could see the crowd reactions, sort of similar to someone acting on stage doing theater, or doing some kind of work like a stand-up comedian, like whatever. That was really fun because it really like you said, it really helped your energy, made you more excited. And that feedback of seeing how the audience looked at you and how they reacted really helped you with your work and make it better. So I think an audience obviously makes the desk way better in that regard. You can feed off the energy. Some of the best matches in the Blizzard Arena were like when the crowd just went nuts, and that just makes your job so much easier as a talent member. And whether you're a caster or a host or an analyst, feeding off that energy, it's just amazing. So yeah, I mean, I think clear cut, like an audience really helps the desk in that regard.
You know the drill by now. First part of our interview with Reinforce is done. Now, this was a long, boy, so we had to split it up in 3 parts. And the second part does not disappoint, because we talked to him about the existence of a hot take folder that he has been preparing for Season 5. Sort of accumulating all these hot, spicy takes that are kind of true in anticipation of Season 5. We also talked to him about a bunch of spicy hypotheticals that I posed to him and really got the gears going and saw where he took it from there. And we also talked about a player that probably could have received the Rascal Rant Award of 2021. Of course, referring to the epic Rascal rant that Reinforce had after Rascal's Season 3 performance. And which player possibly has been underrated in Season 4 this time around. If you want to stay tuned to that, hit like, subscribe, and the bell notification for all things Overwatch with GGRecon.